Greetings. Today we will keep discovering the continent Asia. I would like to tell you more about South Asia. South Asia contains of 17 countries, beautiful and unique countries. Subscribe my channel, like this video so more people could see it, and let's go. India is a country in South Asia. It is the 7th largest country by area, the most populous country as of June 2023, and from the time of its independence in 1947, the world's most populous democracy. India has been a federal republic since 1950, governed through a democratic parliamentary system. It is a pluralistic, multilingual and multi-ethnic society. India's population grew from 361 million in 1951 to almost 1.4 billion in 2022. During the same time, its nominal per capita income increased from $64 annually to $2,601, and its literacy rate from 16.6% to 74%. From being a comparatively destitute country in 1951, India has become a fast-growing major economy and a hub for information technology services, with an expanding middle class. New Delhi is the capital of India and a part of the National Capital Territory of Delhi. New Delhi is the seat of all 3 branches of the Government of India, hosting the Rashtrapati Bhavan, Sansad Bhavan, and the Supreme Court. Modern humans arrived on the Indian subcontinent from Africa no later than 55,000 years ago. Their long occupation, initially in varying forms of isolation as hunter-gatherers, has made the region highly diverse, second only to Africa in human genetic diversity. Settled life emerged on the subcontinent in the western margins of the Indus River Basin 9,000 years ago, evolving gradually into the Indus Valley civilization of the 3rd millennium BCE. Indian cultural history spans more than 4,500 years. During the Vedic period, circa 1700 BCE, circa 500 BCE, the foundations of Hindu philosophy, mythology, theology and literature were laid, and many beliefs and practices which still exist today, such as Dharma, Karma, Yoga, and Moksha, were established. India is notable for its religious diversity, with Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Islam, Christianity, and Jainism among the nation's major religions. The predominant religion, Hinduism, has been shaped by various historical schools of thought, including those of the Upanishads, the Yoga Sutras, the Bhakti movement, and by Buddhist philosophy. The physical features of India include a diverse landscape that includes northern plains, deserts, hills, mountains, and forests. The Himalayas run along its northern border and form a natural barrier between India and China. India's climate can be classified as a hot tropical country, except the northern states of Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir in the north and Sikkim in the northeastern hills, which have a cooler, more continental-influenced climate. In most of India, summer is very hot. Nepal is a landlocked country in South Asia. It is mainly situated in the Himalayas, but also includes parts of the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Nepal has a diverse geography, including fertile plains, subalpine forested hills, and 8 of the world's 10 tallest mountains, including Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth. Nepal is a multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious and multicultural state, with Nepali as the official language. Kathmandu is the capital and most populous city of Nepal with 845,767 inhabitants living in 105,649 households as of the 2021 Nepal census and 2.9 million people in its urban agglomeration. It is located in the Kathmandu Valley, a large valley in the high plateaus in central Nepal, at an altitude of 1,400 meters, 4,600 feet. The name, Nepal, is first recorded in texts from the Vedic period of the Indian subcontinent, the era in ancient Nepal when Hinduism was founded, the predominant religion of the country. In the middle of the 1st millennium BC, Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, was born in Lumbini in southern Nepal. Parts of northern Nepal were intertwined with the culture of Tibet. The centrally located Kathmandu Valley is intertwined with the culture of Indo-Aryans, and was the seat of the prosperous Newar Confederacy known as Nepal Mandala. The Constitution of Nepal, adopted in 2015, affirms the country as a secular federal parliamentary republic divided into 7 provinces. Nepal was admitted to the United Nations in 1955, and friendship treaties were signed with India in 1950 and China in 1960. Traditional Nepali society is sometimes defined by social hierarchy. The Nepali caste system embodies much of the social stratification and many of the social restrictions found in South Asia. Social classes are defined by more than 100 endogamous hereditary groups, often termed as jatis, or castes. Nepal declared untouchability to be illegal in 1963 and has since enacted other anti-discriminatory laws and social welfare initiatives. At the workplace and educational institutions in urban Nepal, caste-related identification has pretty much lost its importance. Family values are important in the Nepali tradition, and multi-generational patriarchal joint families have been the norm in Nepal, though nuclear families are becoming common in urban areas. An overwhelming majority of Nepalis, with or without their consent, have their marriages arranged by their parents or other family elders. Marriage is thought to be for life, and the divorce rate is extremely low, with less than 1 in 1,000 marriages ending in divorce. Child marriages are common, especially in rural areas. Many women wed before reaching 18. Bhutan is a landlocked South Asian country, which is situated in the eastern Himalayas, between China in the north and India in the south. A mountainous country, Bhutan is known locally as Druk Yul, or Land of the Thunder Dragon, a name reflecting the cultural heritage of the country. The country has a population of over 727,145 and territory of 38,394 square kilometers, 14,824 square miles, and ranks 133rd in land area and 160th in population. Bhutan is a constitutional monarchy with a king, Druk Gyalpo, as the head of state and a prime minister as the head of government. Vajrayana Buddhism is the state religion and the Jokhenpo is the head of state religion. Thimphu is the capital and largest city of Bhutan. It is situated in the western central part of Bhutan, and the surrounding valley is one of Bhutan's Dzongkhags, the Thimphu district. The ancient capital city of Punakha was replaced by Thimphu as capital in 1955, and in 1961 Thimphu was declared as the capital of the Kingdom of Bhutan by the third Druk Gyalpo Jigme Dorji Wangchuk. The subalpine Himalayan mountains in the north rise from the country's lush subtropical plains in the south. In the Bhutanese Himalayas, there are peaks higher than 7,000 meters, 23,000 feet, above sea level. Gangkhar Puensum is Bhutan's highest peak and is the highest unclimbed mountain in the world. The wildlife of Bhutan is notable for its diversity, including the Himalayan takin and golden langur. Stone tools, weapons, elephants, and remnants of large stone structures provide evidence that Bhutan was inhabited as early as 2000 BC, although there are no existing records from that time. Much of early Bhutanese history is unclear because most of the records were destroyed when fire ravaged the ancient capital, Punakha, in 1827. By the 10th century, Bhutan's political development was heavily influenced by its religious history. Various subsects of Buddhism emerged that were patronized by the various Mongol warlords. It is estimated that between 2/3 and 3/4 of the Bhutanese population follow Vajrayana Buddhism, which is also the state religion. Hinduism accounts for less than 12% of the population. The current legal framework in principle guarantees freedom of religion. Proselytism, however, is forbidden by a royal government decision and by judicial interpretation of the constitution. Bhutan has a rich and unique cultural heritage that has largely remained intact because of its isolation from the rest of the world until the mid-20th century. One of the main attractions for tourists is the country's culture and traditions. Bhutanese tradition is deeply steeped in its Buddhist heritage. The government is increasingly making efforts to preserve and sustain the current culture and traditions of the country. Because of its largely unspoiled natural environment and cultural heritage, Bhutan has been referred to as the last Shangri-La. Bangladesh is a country in South Asia. It is the 8th most populous and among the most densely populated countries, with a population of around 200 million in an area of 148,460 square kilometers, 57,320 square miles. Dhaka, the capital and largest city, is the nation's political, financial and cultural center. Chittagong, the second largest city, is the busiest port on the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh forms the sovereign part of the historic and ethno-linguistic region of Bengal, which was divided during the partition of India in 1947. Ancient Bengal was known as Gangaridai and was a bastion of pre-Islamic kingdoms. Muslim conquests after 1204 heralded the Sultanate and Mughal periods, during which an independent Bengal Sultanate and a wealthy Mughal Bengal transformed the region into an important center of regional affairs, trade, and diplomacy. After 1757, Bengal's administrative jurisdiction reached its greatest extent under the Bengal Presidency of the British Empire. The creation of Eastern Bengal and Assam in 1905 set a precedent for the emergence of Bangladesh. In 1940, the first Prime Minister of Bengal, A.K. Fazlul Huq, supported the Lahore Resolution. Bangladesh is an ethnically and culturally homogeneous society, as Bengalis form 99% of the population. The official and predominant language of Bangladesh is Bengali, which is spoken by more than 98% of the population as their native language. Bengali is described as a dialect continuum where there are various dialects spoken throughout the country. There is a diglossia in which much of the population is able to understand or speak standard colloquial Bengali and in their regional dialects. Bangladesh was constitutionally proclaimed as the first secular state of South Asia in 1972. It grants freedom of religion and claims to be secular in practice, while establishing Islam as the state religion. Islam is the largest religion across the country, being followed by about 91.1% of the population. The vast majority of Bangladeshi citizens are Bengali Muslims, adhering to Sunni Islam. The country is the third most populous Muslim majority state in the world and has the fourth largest overall Muslim population. Bangladesh has a rich, diverse culture. Its deeply rooted heritage is thoroughly reflected in its architecture, dance, literature, music, painting and clothing. The culture of Bangladesh is intertwined with the culture of the Bengal region of the Indian subcontinent. It has evolved over the centuries and encompasses the cultural diversity of several social groups of Bangladesh. The culture of Bangladesh is deeply intertwined with the culture of the Bengal region. Basically, Bengali culture refers to the culture of Bangladesh. The Bengal Renaissance contained the seeds of a nascent political Indian nationalism which was the precursor in many ways to modern Indian artistic cultural expression. Sri Lanka, historically known as Ceylon and officially the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, is an island country in South Asia. It lies in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka has a population of approximately 22 million people and is home to many cultures, languages, and ethnicities. The Sinhalese people form the majority of the nation's population, followed by the Tamils, who are the largest minority group and are concentrated in northern Sri Lanka. Both groups have played an influential role in the island's history. Other long-established groups include the Moors, Indian Tamils, Burghers, Malays, Chinese, and Vedda. Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte, commonly known as Kotte, is a capital of Sri Lanka. Kotte is located adjacent to the urban area of Sri Lanka's de facto economic, executive, and judicial capital, Colombo. Sri Lanka's documented history goes back 3,000 years, with evidence of prehistoric human settlements that dates back 125,000 years. The earliest known Buddhist writings of Sri Lanka, known collectively as the Pali Canon, date to the Fourth Buddhist Council, which took place in 29 BCE. Sri Lanka is a developing country, ranking 73rd on the Human Development Index. It is the highest-ranked South Asian nation in terms of development and has the second highest per capita income in South Asia. However, the ongoing economic crisis has resulted in the collapse of its currency, rising inflation, and a humanitarian crisis due to a severe shortage of essentials. The culture of Sri Lanka is influenced primarily by Buddhism and Hinduism. Sri Lanka is the home to two main traditional cultures, the Sinhalese, centered in Kandy and Anuradhapura, and the Tamil, centered in Jaffna. Tamils coexisted with the Sinhalese people since then, and the early mixing rendered the two ethnic groups almost physically indistinguishable. Ancient Sri Lanka is marked for its genius in hydraulic engineering and architecture. The British colonial culture has also influenced the locals. The rich cultural traditions shared by all Sri Lankan cultures is the basis of the country's long life expectancy, advanced health standards, and high literacy rate. Sinhalese constitute the largest ethnic group in the country, with 74.8% of the total population. Sri Lankan Tamils are the second major ethnic group in the island, with a percentage of 11.2%. Sinhala and Tamil are the two official languages. The Constitution defines English as the link language. English is widely used for education, scientific, and commercial purposes. Members of the Burgher community speak variant forms of Portuguese Creole and Dutch with varying proficiency, while members of the Malay community speak a form of Creole Malay that is unique to the island. The Maldives is an archipelagic state and country in South Asia, situated in the Indian Ocean. The Maldives chain of 26 atolls stretches across the equator from Ihavandhipallu Atoll in the north to Addu Atoll in the south. Comprising a territory spanning roughly 90,000 square kilometers, 35,000 square miles, including the sea, the Maldives is the smallest country in Asia as well as one of the world's most geographically dispersed sovereign states and as well as one of the smallest Muslim-majority countries by land area and, with a population of 521,021, the second least populous country in Asia. Malé is the capital and the most populated city, traditionally called the King's Island, where the ancient royal dynasties ruled for its central location. The Maldives has been inhabited for over 2,500 years. In the 12th century, Islam reached the Maldivian archipelago, which was consolidated as a sultanate, developing strong commercial and cultural ties with Asia and Africa. Historically, the Maldives provided enormous quantities of cowrie shells, an international currency of the early ages. From the 2nd century CE, the islands were known as the Money Isles by the Arabs. Monetaria moneda were used for centuries as a currency in Africa, and huge amounts of Maldivian cowries were introduced into Africa by Western nations during the period of slave trade. The cowrie is now the symbol of the Maldives' monetary authority. The largest ethnic group is Divhan, i.e. the Maldivians, native to the historic region of the Maldive Islands comprising today's Republic of Maldives and the island of Minicoy in Union Territory of Lakshadweep, India. They share the same culture and speak the Divehi language. They are principally an Indo-Aryan people, having traces of Middle Eastern, South Asian, Austronesian, and African genes in the population. In the past, there was also a small Tamil population known as the Garavaru people. This group has now been almost completely absorbed into the larger Maldivian society but were once native to the island of Garavaru. After the long Buddhist period of Maldivian history, Muslim traders introduced Islam. Maldivians converted to Islam by the mid-12th century. The islands have had a long history of Sufic orders, as can be seen in the history of the country, such as the building of tombs. They were used until as recently as the 1980s for seeking the help of buried saints. They can be seen next to some old mosques and are considered a part of the Maldives' cultural heritage. Other aspects of tasawwuf, such as ritualized dhikr ceremonies called mauludu, maulid, the liturgy of which included recitations and certain supplications in a melodic tone, existed until very recent times. These Mauludu festivals were held in ornate tents specially built for the occasion. At present, Islam is the official religion of the entire population, as adherence to it is required for citizenship. Myanmar, also known as Burma, is a country in Southeast Asia. It is the largest country by area in mainland Southeast Asia and has a population of about 55 million in 2023. Naypyidaw is the capital and third largest city of Myanmar. The city is located at the center of the Naypyidaw Union Territory. It is unusual among Myanmar's cities, as it is an entirely planned city outside of any state or region. Early civilizations in the area included the Tibeto-Burman-speaking Pyu city-states in Upper Myanmar and the Mon kingdoms in Lower Myanmar. In the 9th century, the Bamar people entered the Upper Irrawaddy Valley, and following the establishment of the pagan kingdom in the 1050s, the Burmese language, culture, and Theravada Buddhism slowly became dominant in the country. The British East India Company seized control of the administration of Myanmar after 3 Anglo-Burmese wars in the 19th century, and the country became a British colony. After a brief Japanese occupation, Myanmar was reconquered by the Allies. On the 4th of January 1948, Myanmar declared independence under the terms of the Burma Independence Act 1947. Myanmar is ethnically diverse. The government recognizes 135 distinct ethnic groups. There are at least 108 different ethno-linguistic groups in Myanmar, consisting mainly of distinct Tibeto-Burman peoples, but with sizable populations of Thai Kadai, Hmong Mien, and Austroasiatic, Mon Khmer, peoples. Myanmar is home to 4 major language families: Sino-Tibetan, Thai Kadai, Austroasiatic, and Indo-European. Sino-Tibetan languages are most widely spoken. Many religions are practiced in Myanmar. Religious edifices and orders have been in existence for many years. The Christian and Muslim populations do, however, face religious persecution, and it is hard, if not impossible, for non-Buddhists to join the army or get government jobs, the main route to success in the country. Such persecution and targeting of civilians is particularly notable in eastern Myanmar, where over 3,000 villages have been destroyed in the past 10 years. More than 200,000 Muslims have fled to Bangladesh by 2007 to escape persecution. A diverse range of indigenous cultures exist in Myanmar, with majority culture primarily Buddhist and Bamar. Bamar culture has been influenced by the cultures of neighboring countries, manifested in its language, cuisine, music, dance, and theater. The arts, particularly literature, have historically been influenced by the local form of Theravada Buddhism. Considered the national epic of Myanmar, the Yama Zatda, an adaptation of India's Ramayana, has been influenced greatly by Thai, Mon, and Indian versions of the play. Buddhism is practiced along with Nat worship, which involves elaborate rituals to propitiate one from a pantheon of 37 Nats. Laos is a landlocked country in Southeast Asia, at the heart of the Indo-Chinese peninsula. Vientiane is the capital and largest city of Laos. Comprising the 5 urban districts of Vientiane Prefecture, the city is located on the banks of the Mekong, right at the border with Thailand. Vientiane was the administrative capital during French rule and, due to economic growth in recent times, is now the economic center of Laos. The politically and culturally dominant Lao people make up 53.2% of the population, mostly in the lowlands. Mon Khmer groups, the Hmong, and other indigenous hill tribes live in the foothills and mountains. Laos's strategies for development are based on generating electricity from rivers and selling the power to its neighbors, namely Thailand, China, and Vietnam, as well as its initiative to become a land-linked nation, as evidenced by the construction of 4 new railways connecting Laos and neighbors. Present-day Laos traces its historic and cultural identity to Lan Xang, which existed from the 13th century to the 18th century as one of the largest kingdoms in Southeast Asia. Because of its central geographical location in Southeast Asia, the kingdom became a hub for overland trade and became wealthy economically and culturally. It was occupied by Japan during World War II and briefly gained independence in 1945 as a Japanese puppet state, but was recolonized by France until it won autonomy in 1949. Laos became independent in 1953 as the Kingdom of Laos, with a constitutional monarchy under Sisavang Vong. The people of Laos are often categorized by their distribution by elevation: lowlands, midlands, and upper highlands, as this somewhat correlates with ethnic groupings. More than half of the nation's population is ethnic Lao, the principal lowland inhabitants, and the politically and culturally dominant people of Laos. The Lao belong to the Thai linguistic group who began migrating south from China in the first millennium CE. 10% belong to other lowland groups, which together with the Lao people make up the Lao Lum, lowland people. Theravada Buddhism is a dominant influence in Lao culture. It is evident throughout the country, expressed in language, temples, and the arts and literature. Many elements of Lao culture predate Buddhism. For example, Laotian music is dominated by its national musical instrument, the kayan, a type of bamboo mouth organ that has prehistoric origins. The kayin traditionally accompanied the singer in more lam, the dominant style of folk music. Buddhism has long been one of the most important social forces in Laos. Theravada Buddhism has coexisted peacefully since its introduction to the country with the local polytheism. Vietnam is a country at the eastern edge of mainland Southeast Asia, with an area of 331,212 square kilometers, 127,882 square miles, and a population of over 100 million, making it the world's 15th most populous country. Its capital is Hanoi. Hanoi's history goes back to the 3rd century BCE, when a portion of the modern-day city served as the capital of the historic Vietnamese nation of O Lac. Following the collapse of O Lac, the city was part of Han China. In 1010, Vietnamese Emperor Le Tai to establish the capital of the Imperial Vietnamese nation Dai Viet in modern-day central Hanoi, naming the city Thang Long, literally, ascending dragon. Vietnam was inhabited by the Paleolithic Age, with states established in the 1st millennium BC on the Red River Delta in modern-day northern Vietnam. A developing country with a lower middle-income economy, Vietnam is nonetheless one of the fastest-growing economies of the 21st century. Vietnam has high levels of corruption, censorship, environmental issues, and a poor human rights record. The country ranks among the lowest in international measurements of civil liberties, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion and ethnic minorities. The dominant Viet or Kin ethnic group constitute 85.32% of the population. Most of their population is concentrated in the country's alluvial deltas and coastal plains. As a majority ethnic group, the Kin possess significant political and economic influence over the country. Despite this, Vietnam is also home to various ethnic groups, of which 54 are officially recognized, including the Hmong, Dao, Tay, Thai, and Nung. Many ethnic minorities such as the Muong, who are closely related to the Kin, dwell in the highlands which cover 2/3 of Vietnam's territory. Under Article 70 of the 1992 Constitution of Vietnam, all citizens enjoy freedom of belief and religion. All religions are equal before the law and each place of worship is protected under Vietnamese state law. Religious beliefs cannot be misused to undermine state law and policies. According to a 2007 survey, 81% of Vietnamese people did not believe in a god. Vietnamese culture is considered part of Sinosphere. Vietnam's culture has developed over the centuries from indigenous ancient Dong Sun culture with wet rice cultivation as its economic base. Some elements of the nation's culture have Chinese origins, drawing on elements of Confucianism, Mahayana Buddhism, and Taoism in its traditional political system and philosophy. Vietnamese society is structured around Lang, ancestral villages. All Vietnamese mark a common ancestral anniversary on the 10th day of the 3rd lunar month. Thailand, officially the Kingdom of Thailand and historically known as Siam, is a country in Southeast Asia on the Indo-Chinese peninsula. With a population of almost 70 million, it spans 513,120 square kilometers, 198,120 square miles. Bangkok, officially known in Thai as Krung Thep Maha Nakhon, B, and colloquially as Krung Thep, is the capital and most populous city of Thailand. The city occupies 1,568.7 square kilometers, 605.7 square miles, in the Chao Phraya River Delta in central Thailand and has an estimated population of about 11 million as of 2022, 15% of the country's population, making Bangkok an extreme primate city, dwarfing Thailand's other urban centers in both size and importance to the national economy. Thai peoples migrated from southwestern China to mainland Southeast Asia from the 6th to 11th century. Indianized kingdoms such as the Mon, Khmer Empire and Malay states ruled the region, competing with Thai states such as the kingdoms of Wanyang, Sukhothai, Lan Na and Ayutthaya, which also rivaled each other. European contact began in 1511 with a Portuguese diplomatic mission to Ayutthaya, which became a regional power by the end of the 15th century. Ayutthaya reached its peak during the 18th century until it was destroyed in the Burmese-Siamese War. Thai nationals make up the majority of Thailand's population, 96% in 2022. The official language of Thailand is Thai, a Kra Dai language closely related to Lao, Shan in Myanmar, and numerous smaller languages spoken in an arc from Hainan and Yunnan south to the Chinese border. It is the principal language of education and government and spoken throughout the country. 62 languages were recognized by the Royal Thai government. For the purposes of the national census, 4 dialects of Thai exist. These partly coincide with regional designations, such as Southern Thai and Northern Thai. The country's most prevalent religion is Theravada Buddhism, which is an integral part of Thai identity and culture. Active participation in Buddhism is among the highest in the world. Thailand has the second largest number of Buddhists in the world after China. Thai culture and traditions incorporate influences from India, China, Cambodia, and the rest of Southeast Asia. Thailand's national religion, Theravada Buddhism, is central to modern Thai identity. Thai Buddhism has evolved over time to include many regional beliefs originating from Hinduism, animism, as well as ancestor worship. The official calendar in Thailand is based on the Eastern version of the Buddhist era. Thai identity today is a social construct of the Phibun regime in the 1940s. Cambodia is a country in mainland Southeast Asia, spanning an area of 181,035 square kilometers, 69,898 square miles. Cambodia's landscape is characterized by a low-lying central alluvial plain that is surrounded by uplands and low mountains and includes the Tonle Sap, Great Lake, and the upper reaches of the Mekong River Delta. Phnom Penh is the capital and most populous city of Cambodia. It has been the national capital since the French Protectorate of Cambodia and has grown to become the nation's primate city and its economic, industrial, and cultural center. There exists sparse evidence for a Pleistocene human occupation of present-day Cambodia, which includes quartz and quartzite pebble tools found in terraces along the Mekong River, in Stung Treng and Kratie provinces, and in Kampot province, although their dating is unreliable. Some slight archaeological evidence shows communities of hunter-gatherers inhabited the region during Holocene. The most ancient archaeological discovery site in Cambodia is considered to be the Cave of Long Speen, which belongs to the Hobenian period. Excavations in its lower layers produced a series of radiocarbon dates around 6000 BC. The vast majority of Cambodia's population is of ethnic Khmer origin, over 95%, who are speakers of the Khmer language, the country's sole official language. Cambodia's population is largely homogeneous. The Khmer language is a member of the Mon Khmer subfamily of the Austroasiatic language group. French, once the language of government in Indochina, is still spoken by many older Cambodians, and is also the language of instruction in some schools and universities that are funded by the government of France. There is also a French-language newspaper and some TV channels are available in French. Cambodia is a member of La Francophonie. Cambodian French, a remnant of the country's colonial past, is a dialect found in Cambodia and is sometimes used in government, particularly in court. Theravada Buddhism is the official religion of Cambodia, practiced by more than 95% of the population with an estimated 4,392 monastery temples throughout the country. Cambodian Buddhism is deeply influenced by Hinduism and native animism. Various factors contribute to the Cambodian culture including Theravada Buddhism, Hinduism, French colonialism, Angkorian culture, and modern globalization. The Cambodian Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts is responsible for promoting and developing Cambodian culture. Cambodian culture not only includes the culture of the lowland ethnic majority, but also some 20 culturally distinct hill tribes colloquially known as the Khmer Lo, a term coined by Norodom Sihanouk to encourage unity between the highlanders and lowlanders. Malaysia is a country in Southeast Asia. The federal constitutional monarchy consists of 13 states and 3 federal territories, separated by the South China Sea into 2 regions, Peninsular Malaysia and Borneo's East Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur is the national capital, the country's largest city, and the seat of the legislative branch of the federal government. Putrajaya is the country's administrative center, which represents the seat of both the executive branch, the cabinet, federal ministries, and federal agencies, and the judicial branch of the federal government. With a population of over 33 million, the country is the world's 43rd most populous country. The southernmost point of continental Eurasia is Tanjung Piai. Located in the tropics, the country is one of 17 megadiverse countries and home to numerous endemic species. The country has its origins in the Malay kingdoms, which, from the 18th century on, became subject to the British Empire, along with the British Straits Settlements Protectorate. The country achieved independence on the 31st of August 1957. On the 16th of September 1963, independent Malaya united with the then British Crown colonies of North Borneo, Sarawak, and Singapore to become Malaysia. In August 1965, Singapore was expelled from the Federation and became a separate, independent country. The country is multi-ethnic and multicultural, which has a significant effect on its politics. About half the population is ethnically Malay, with minorities of Chinese, Indians, and indigenous peoples. The official language is Malaysian Malay, a standard form of the Malay language. English remains an active second language. While recognizing Islam as the official religion, the Constitution grants freedom of religion to non-Muslims. Malaysia has a multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multilingual society. Substantial influence exists from Chinese and Indian culture, dating back to when foreign trade began. Other cultural influences include the Persian, Arabic, and British cultures. Due to the structure of the government, coupled with the social contract theory, there has been minimal cultural assimilation of ethnic minorities. Some cultural disputes exist between Malaysia and neighboring countries, notably Indonesia. Malaysia is a relatively open state-oriented and newly industrialized market economy. It has the world's 36th largest economy by nominal GDP and the 31st largest by PPP. Malaysia is the world's 23rd largest exporter and 25th largest importer. However, economic inequalities exist between different ethnic groups. The Chinese make up about 1/4 of the population, but account for 70% of the country's market capitalization. Chinese businesses in Malaysia are part of the larger Bamboo Network, a network of overseas Chinese businesses in the Southeast Asian market sharing common family and cultural ties. Brunei is a country in Southeast Asia, situated on the northern coast of the island of Borneo. Brunei is the only sovereign state entirely on Borneo. The remainder of the island is divided between Malaysia and Indonesia. As of 2023, the country has a population of about 500,000, of whom approximately 100,000 resided in the capital and largest city Bandar Seri Begawan. The government of Brunei is an absolute monarchy ruled by the Sultan of Brunei, and it implements a fusion of English common law and jurisprudence inspired by Islam, including Sharia. Areas comprising what is now Brunei participated in the Maritime Jade Road, as ascertained by archaeological research. The trading network existed for 3,000 years, between 2000 BC to 1000 AD. The settlement known as Vijayapura was a vassal state to the Buddhist Srivijaya Empire and was thought to be located in Borneo's northwest, which flourished in the 7th century. This alternative Srivijaya, referring to Brunei, was known to Arabic sources as Sribuza. Ethnicities indigenous to Brunei include the Balay, Brunei Bisaya, not to be confused with the Bisaya, Visaya of the nearby Philippines, indigenous Bruneian Malay, Dusun, Ketian, Lun Bawang, Meru, and Tutong. In 2014, 65.7% of the population were Malay, 10.3% are Chinese, 3.4% are indigenous, with 20.6% smaller groups making up the rest. There is a relatively large expatriate community. Most expats come from non-Muslim countries. Islam is the official religion of Brunei, specifically that of the Sunni denomination and the Shafi'i school of Islamic jurisprudence. More than 80% of the population, including the majority of Bruneian Malays and Kedians, identify as Muslim. Other faiths practiced are Buddhism and Christianity. The official language of Brunei is Standard Malay, for which both the Latin alphabet, Rumi, and the Arabic alphabet, Jawi, are used. Initially, Malay was written in the Jawi script before it switched to the Latin alphabet around 1941. The Philippines is an archipelagic country in Southeast Asia. In the western Pacific Ocean, it consists of 7,641 islands which are broadly categorized in three main geographical divisions from north to south: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. It is the world's 12th most populous country, with diverse ethnicities and cultures. Manila is the country's capital, and its most populated city is Quezon City. Both are within Metro Manila. Negritos, the archipelago's earliest inhabitants, were followed by waves of Austronesian peoples. The adoption of animism, Islam and Hinduism established island kingdoms ruled by datus, rajas, and sultans. The arrival of Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese explorer leading a fleet for Spain, marked the beginning of Spanish colonization. In 1543, Spanish explorer Ruy López de Villalobos named the archipelago Las Islas Filipinas in honor of King Philip II of Castile. Spanish settlement via New Spain, beginning in 1565, led to the Philippines becoming ruled by the Crown of Castile, as part of the Spanish Empire, for more than 300 years. Catholic Christianity became the dominant religion, and Manila became the western hub of trans-Pacific trade. The Philippines became independent in 1946. The country has had a tumultuous experience with democracy, which included the overthrow of a decades-long dictatorship in a nonviolent revolution. The Philippines is an emerging market and a newly industrialized country, whose economy is transitioning from being agricultural to service and manufacturing centered. Its location as an island country on the Pacific Ring of Fire and close to the equator makes it prone to earthquakes and typhoons. The Philippines has a variety of natural resources and a globally significant level of biodiversity. The Philippines has significant cultural diversity, reinforced by the country's fragmented geography. Spanish and American cultures profoundly influenced Filipino culture as a result of long colonization. The cultures of Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago developed distinctly, since they had limited Spanish influence and more influence from nearby Islamic regions. Indigenous groups such as the Igorots have preserved their pre-colonial customs and traditions by resisting the Spanish. A national identity emerged during the 19th century, however, with shared national symbols and cultural and historical touchstones. Although the Philippines is a secular state with freedom of religion, an overwhelming majority of Filipinos consider religion very important and irreligion is very low. Christianity is the dominant religion, followed by about 89% of the population. The Philippines sends many Christian missionaries around the world and is a training center for foreign priests and nuns. Indonesia is a country in Southeast Asia and Oceania between the Indian and Pacific Oceans. It consists of over 17,000 islands, including Sumatra, Java, Sulawesi, and parts of Borneo and New Guinea. Indonesia is the world's largest island country and the 14th largest country by area, at 1,904,569 square kilometers, 735,358 square miles. With over 278 million people, Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous country and the most populous Muslim-majority country. Java, the world's most populous island, is home to more than half of the country's population. Indonesia is a presidential republic with an elected legislature. It has 38 provinces, of which 9 have special status. The country's capital, Jakarta, is the world's second most populous urban area. Despite its large population and densely populated regions, Indonesia has vast areas of wilderness that support one of the world's highest levels of biodiversity. The Indonesian archipelago has been a valuable region for trade since at least the 7th century, when Srivijaya and later Majapahit traded with entities from mainland China and the Indian subcontinent. Local rulers gradually absorbed foreign influences from the early centuries, and Hindu and Buddhist kingdoms flourished. Muslim traders later brought Islam, and European powers fought one another to monopolize trade in the Spice Islands of Maluku during the Age of Discovery. Following 3.5 centuries of Dutch colonialism, Indonesia secured its independence after World War II. Indonesia consists of thousands of distinct native ethnic and hundreds of linguistic groups, with Javanese being the largest. A shared identity has developed with the motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity, literally, many, yet one, defined by a national language, cultural diversity, religious pluralism within a Muslim-majority population, and a history of colonialism and rebellion against it. The economy of Indonesia is the world's 16th largest by nominal GDP and the 7th largest by PPP. It is the world's third largest democracy, a regional power, and is considered a middle power in global affairs. The cultural history of the Indonesian archipelago spans more than 2 millennia. Influences from the Indian subcontinent, mainland China, the Middle East, Europe, Melanesian and Austronesian peoples have historically shaped the cultural, linguistic and religious makeup of the archipelago. As a result, modern-day Indonesia has a multicultural, multilingual and multi-ethnic society, with a complex cultural mixture that differs significantly from the original indigenous cultures.